thanks for doing this. I mean, I think it's been since like October that I reached out to you, and we were trying to do this. This is Charles Mencel, and we're going to be talking about his surfboard shaping company. And when I first met you, I was helping Kyle, a buddy of mine, do some plumbing work, and he had said that you had a surfboard shaping company. I already had known your brand, but I never had met you. I said you were also a uh, a college professor at the local community college, Brookdale. So I was like, he's like, you should interview him. I'm like, yeah, I should, because as I mentioned to you earlier, I the whole premise of the show is like people that are pursuing something that they love,
Yeah.
along with like the side hustle type thing. And this is walking in here. This is far more than a side hustle.
It
So
is. It's evolved more into the side hustle life, but
yeah,
it's like a slow game of Monopoly here. Every piece kind of moves over and over and over, and but we're I think I've been here now like 9 years or so, maybe even a little bit less than that. But it's been just each year is one foot in front of the other and one hand in front of the other hand, and it has been that kind of gradual grind that kind of leads you to kind of where you are, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. And like coming into shaping, I mean, was it just like you obviously loving surfing, but like what was it? You're like, I want to start shaping.
No, it was all the repair work. That's where all this
Okay.
starts. And that's even behind us here. There's repair work that one of my little 16-year-old proteges is going to do. And it's just that is a huge inception point for any shaper is like any guy that says they just shape boards from the beginning is probably not going to shape boards for more than like the 7 years of its
Right.
coolness.
Okay.
So repair work is like the birth of it all, and that's what I did. I did it for probably 3 shops locally, Inlet Outlet. Then it was Third Avenue Surf,
Mm-hmm.
Spellbinders. I even did a little bit of work for,
Nice.
even though Rick Henriksen did a lot of that, and then more. There was a couple more Eastern Lines. I even picked up some work for a couple others, and then my own friends and family. So when you had 9, 10 surfboards going through a garage, which it was my folks' garage,
Mm-hmm.
you see so many boards, you feel so many boards, you almost through osmosis become obsessed with boards. And that's all it was this like just appreciation and love of them. And so you try to surf them, and like I am a total surf junkie. Like I just live, die, breathe for it. And in order to surf as much as you can, you have to have the right boards. And if you don't have access to them, if the ones that you do have access to, there's compromise, whether
Right.
it's price, whether it's the shape, whether it's the aesthetic, whether it's the place it's made, it's all these components that make a board cool or
Right.
worthy. That led me to just say like, fuck, I should just do this myself,
Yeah.
or not make
Okay.
it myself, but that like I could do a little bit of this, or I could see who else is doing it. And I think that kind of led me towards trying to get shapers that would make them by hand or do it with you in process. And then that led to maybe a summer of getting a blank or two. And that's really what it was just this like incremental kind of process of getting more and more obsessed with boards and more obsessed with surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the first board like?
It was an egg. It was a rounded tailed, like fun shaped egg. And it was because you could not find that. And I thought it was probably a hull or a displacement kind of cool Australia point board, but it
Mhm.
wasn't. It was just like a flat bottom shortboard that was rounded and just
Had a
flat.
ride.
Great. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, to this day, it still is probably one of the more exciting boards because it was like made of a totally the wrong blank. It took me a good amount of time to shape that one, and it was just really well kind of executed in terms of like the rail and the rocker. I think it had a twist in it too, and that helped. It sat in like a damp attic for a bit, and
Right.
the rocker actually bent in a certain way. So yeah, it was a lucky first go, and then boards 3 to 500 sucked.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
2 to 500 sucked.
Yeah.
but some didn't, and then that was it. And it was just stages of 20 at a time. I think I bought like a blank load of 25. Then it was Clark blanks, so I was ordering them then under their company name, and that was exciting and so nice, and they were easy to work with. And then they foreclosed. That was, I think, 2005 or 2005. And then a ton of manufacturers popped up, a ton. And so in doing that, then it became this scramble of like who had access to blanks, who didn't. And I would find like random guys that had so many of these blanks. And some
Now,
of
are
them,
they like,
you knew maybe, but
yeah,
it was just this.
are they like guys that gave up shaping or?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That they bought like a tremendous amount of blanks, and they were just sitting in this supply house. And I just said, "Oh man, like, can I get one? Can I get one?" And obviously, I paid for them, but
Sure.
I ripped through all those, and then had access to a couple supply houses locally here. But yeah, it was just like a high time for making surfboards. It was just that those years really just kind of took off, and that was probably a little bit later than 2007, 2009, but it's about then. Like that was kind of it, and then Instagram hit, I think, in 2013, and then that kind of bubbled that world and threw that forward, and all of a sudden, you didn't have to be a guy that had a factory in Oceanside or a wear space in Wailua or somewhere. You'd be able to show that, hey, I'm making boards in Jersey and by my hand, and they kind of work,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of amassed from there. Honestly, like I think really, people may poo poo a lot of what social media did, but what social media did was that it really it democratized people's access to people and to their wares, to what they do, to what they create.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was a big thing in surfboards. Was like I had a background in photography, and what's easier to take a photo of than a surfboard?
Yeah.
It's framed in this perfect square, right? And I write on top of that, so then to have a caption that is mildly revealing, you can't not do it almost, right?
Yeah.
It almost lends itself perfectly to that. So
Yeah, it's your voice, your platform. There
yeah,
you go.
exactly. And it
Yeah.
was curated. It was really easy. And Darren, prior to that, I had no social media at all. Zero. Like the
Yeah.
Facebook was like over my head.
Yeah.
I log in 1 or 2 times a year,
Mhm.
but that was really simple, and that was that really did kind of funnel and focus a lot of my work, and allowed more guys to like see the boards and be like, oh my God, you really
Yeah.
are doing that? Wow, that's crazy, and
Yeah.
I got in contact with certain people that I hadn't seen in a while, or were coming back to surfing, and then surfing, quote, became cool. I hate to say that, but it really did.
Well, so that's funny that you say that because so I took I took a hiatus from the ocean,
Hmm.
and when I like started getting back in the water, I noticed that like the lineups were just so crowded,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and with girls, boys, men, and women, which
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
crazy. You know what I
Totally,
mean?
totally.
And in the winter because the wetsuit technology has
Phenomenal,
changed,
phenomenal. Yeah,
and it was just so bulky when we were younger, and just like
yeah.
it was, and now it's so manageable, you know?
I used to wear a spring suit with a 3-2 over that, and then an attachable hood under the 3-2.
Yeah.
And that still was probably the worst thing you could do because I was still cold, and I would
Uh-huh.
like be like suffocated by the
Yeah. Yeah, like
spring
you're
suit.
so winded
So dumb.
by the time you get out
But
there.
nowadays you get a brand new 543 for
Mhm.
$220, and
You
you get
take
a
good care of it.
bar
It's
wax. It's
yeah.
fine. It's
Yeah.
totally fine. And even if you don't take care of it, if you're just a dumb kid that just is ready to paddle all day, like you're still fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think equipment led to a lot of that. I think wetsuits, and I think a guy that partly can make you a board that works for you. I think that inspires or gets
Yeah.
people in the water. So there's a lot more of like a surfing life available to people nowadays around
Yeah.
here. Back in the day, it was an outcast sport.
For
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it does way more for me, and I'm sure it does for you, than like. Well, I also like. I think the sport has become a sport.
Yeah, it
Like
is for sure.
where for some people it's more of like like a spiritual, like leisurely, like fun way to like just enjoy some time outdoors. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because like I think there was an article the other day. I want to say it was like on Stab's Instagram. It's like why surfers don't care that they never get better.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I've read that one actually. Yeah,
because it's not always
yeah,
about that. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like if you're going, um, into the ocean to be like, oh, dude, like I hope I kill it today. Like it's just not going to be that fun. You know what I
No,
mean?
and it's
Unless you're like competing, of
right,
course.
right.
But I mean, like if
Which
you're,
is a totally different thing. Yeah, see, I view it as a sport in the competitive realm because there are winners, losers. There's a little bit of defense. That's a qualifier of a sport, I think. But it's for me, it's just the lifestyle. It's like
Mhm.
the fact that I train so that I can still do it. The fact that I surfed today. I surfed twice today. Worked all week so that I could surf.
Mhm.
Lined everything up from the boards to the wetsuits to the fucking earplugs, like everything,
Mhm.
got my session, survived, got out of the water, feel drained, feel strong.
Mhm.
And like, I'm not doing that by playing golf.
Yeah.
And I love golf.
Yeah.
I don't get that from fishing, and I love to fish.
Mhm.
I love skiing, but it's a lot of money, it's a lot of work.
Right.
Whereas this is up the street,
Yeah.
literally. I don't care if you're from Farmingdale or Belmar or wherever, you can get to the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's just there waiting, And
Yeah.
it's the one thing you really cannot fake. I can fake running.
Yeah.
I can fake a cycle or, whatever. You can fake a lot in life, man. And you cannot fake paddling out in a gale.
It gets real.
And yeah, and it's just I don't know. It's a great way to like realize who you are.
It's just super humbling.
Very,
You know what I
very,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
And it makes you right sized.
Yes. Yeah.
Like when you're paddling out and like you're just stuck in the
That's it.
in the set and you're
That's
just like
it.
fuck I just
Suffering.
gotta fucking
Yeah.
do this.
Suffering.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
Because it's a lot like life, like
Oh,
sometimes,
well
life comes
said.
through and you just gotta sit there and fucking take it.
The whole
and
time.
like
Yeah.
but then like when you get out, like you come up, you're fired up and you're
Yeah.
excited and you
Yeah.
can't wait to get one that you just ducked over, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Yep.
and it's just so personifies life, for me. And
It does. There's a great book by I think it's Sean Carney or Steve Carney. He wrote basically the memoir for Wim Hof, the famous breathing ice bath guy.
the ice guy.
Yeah, but the Iceman they call him. But so
It's wild, dude.
Carney's book is awesome, and it really demystifies a lot of the Wim Hof stuff. But he really gets at the core of that. As humans, we are perfectly good or really good at surviving, and that our lives get so perfectly buttered into this like survival mode of just being like, I'm in sweats and I am in my comfy
Yeah.
car and I am drinking my latte and life is just so smooth and easy
Yeah.
that there's no suffering, and a lot of our gene code is suffering and surviving and
Yeah.
getting through these like moments of like, holy cow, I didn't get eaten by the T-Rex. Holy cow, I didn't,
Yeah.
fall into the pile of mud.
Yeah.
And I think surfing triggers some of that and like awakens that, or at least like quells that like, yeah, you did it, dude. You executed your job. You did
There's
whatever.
a buzz in that on the other.
There
know what I
is,
mean?
there is. And but listen, I think that can be anything. That can be performing well in your job. It can be shoveling the driveway. It can be,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that can be like gratifying.
chopping
and,
wood. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that kind of gets the dopamine going
Yeah,
in your brain.
Yeah.
It's like is worth it.
Yeah.
You
it
know
is.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you get that. We were just talking about that, like when you like shape a board, right? And you think it's like perfect,
Oh my
and then
God. Yep.
and you're super pumped about
Right.
it. But do you like when you give it to your customer, man? Do you like kind of like hold your breath and you're like,
Constantly. Yeah. Constantly. We
what's
were
he or
talking.
she gonna say?
Yeah. So it's like, do I say it or do they say it? And the truth of it is, they're never going to say it because they won't see it, but I will, right? And so I always go with, I'll just say it. So I always default to like this is an issue, or this could have been better, and if next time I'll have it this way. And they roll me and say, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I didn't even
Right.
see it. But yeah, like the funny thing is I'm not at all a perfectionist in many avenues. Like if my car is filthy,
Sure.
my house is pretty filthy, my yard is pretty filthy, but my shop, granted, it's pretty dusty today, but it's pretty clean, and
Yeah.
my bay is really organized, and everything that happens here is really really meticulous in certain capacities, and it just this one avenue of my life really does kind of consume me. My teaching too, uh, my personal life, like how
Mhm.
I treat others, and that I really obviously vet or take seriously in consideration, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm considerate in what I'm who I am, what I'm doing. But the surfboards, like it just is something that I need to get right,
Yeah.
constantly, and
Absolutely.
it's tough because when you're building boards, it's not just you; it's a group. It's almost this symphony of people that all have to kind of
Mhm.
move in the same. It's like a peloton in cycling, right? Like though you're all trying to move your in your own pace. If you don't move together, you can't pull each other together. You know what I mean? And that's it. Is that when one guy falls, we all
Yeah.
stumble, and and a lot of times it can fall on me. So it's brutal to like carry or to be with four other guys that are doing your laminating, or hot coating, or sanding, and they work their asses off. And the hope is just to never make the mistake twice. It's just fuck up once, eat shit,
Right.
let it hurt like hell, and then
Mhm.
never do it again.
Right.
you know. And then if you do, then you pull the Peloton for a bit. You
Yeah. So, do you think? So, I know that you said that through repair, um, you wanted to eventually get into shaping,
Yeah.
but like, what made you like stick with it, man,
It
and
would.
like be like, okay, like,
It. You know.
because you obviously have a love for. I mean, do you have a love for like English and literature and things
No.
like
Well, it's
that?
like yeah. Like there's an assignment that I do even at school where I write kind of an essay that kind of talks about that with them for essay 2, I think, and we talk about no, it's actually 1, and we talk about the idea of like people that influence you and how it comes into your life. And my wife did that. She like propelled me to say like, you have this job, it goes well, but work is work. Work is it can be filled with the drama, the horror, the
Mm-hmm.
worries, all these things that then don't really like you don't want to connect with at 5 6 p.m. Or
Yeah.
on a Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people have that. I don't think I think even like Jimmy Iovine or who the hell ever like wants to do something else with their life. They like it's crazy. Like Howard Stern wants to paint. Like
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Like there
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
constant. Mark Wahlberg wants to be a pro golfer.
Right.
It's I don't know. Like there's other people too. Like Jordan wanted to play baseball. It's this
Sure.
constant idea that like there's something else out there for me, and that's a huge component I think of life. Is this another like human characteristic? Is this like evolutionary thing of like fuck
Fulfillment.
yeah, like or like no, like maybe the bread's not going to be there this winter, or the
Okay.
grain isn't there, or I don't know. I don't think it's financially driven, but I think it is this idea of like rust never sleeps. You have to just keep going.
Right.
So for me, it was like, okay, I got the repair work done. Now what? All right, I can make one of these fucking things. Like
Yeah.
I know how to sand. I know how to
Yeah.
laminate. I'll do that. And then
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really that like I need to shape this incredible board that I have manifested. It was more the idea of like, why can't I just do
Practical
that?
kind
Yeah, why can't I just do that?
of. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have everything set up. It takes one more form to buy. I used such primitive tools when I did it, but that was it. And then it just kind of like led to this small birth of like, okay, that's one. Man, oh my gosh, imagine I did 50, or imagine I did 20, and then maybe I did 20, and then maybe I took a year off.
Yeah.
I got into skating or something like that, or I
Yeah.
learned to play guitar that summer,
Mm-hmm.
and it was less, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever happened. And then I came back and I did it again, and then maybe I think I shaped a couple in Rhode Island back in the day. I was going to school up there. I did some of that. It had like a wave of cool then, and then I would come back every summer. I'd do it every summer, honestly. It was like a
Yeah.
new idea that I had sat on all winter. In the summers when you can laminate boards, honestly, it can't happen in the winter unless you have a setup.
Mm-hmm.
And
But it
and
has
that,
to be right temperature, I guess.
yeah, temperature, humidity, everything. But the temperature's everything, and controlled. It can't just be like super hot, super
Uh-huh.
cold. It's
Yeah.
got to be steady for a while. And things
Okay.
have to cure. So it's a lot, and it's almost impossible to do. It's like almost impossible.
Right.
And so it just kind of kept going, and it was a critical mass. It was like I got better at it while access became more available, online purchasing for tools, processes, even YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like even like the advent of YouTube and like I said before, Instagram, all those things kind of proliferated to make people like myself just more available, more in the optic of people. And that's not just me. That's like knife makers. That's like
Yeah.
leather wallets. I hate to say, like cool dripped clothing. Like just wild stuff. So like, surfboards are just another rung on the ladder of what's kind of trending. But I don't know. I don't think it'll really go away. To be honest, I think
No. Yeah.
surfing's here.
Surfing's here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever go away.
No.
But yeah, dude. So, like, we talked about, a little bit about you like giving that board and like holding your like. So one, they do kind of give you the riot act, right? Like that's not the way I envisioned it.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like you're
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
does that sit with you for a while? Like,
Absolutely. So
and like,
I've made at this point 1,500 boards,
okay,
and I remember probably like 6 or 7 of them because of like some nightmare that happened, whether it was like the wrong color chartreuse, or whether it was the wrong fins that got installed, or whether it was just a butchered lamb,
mm-hmm.
or fuck, 18 other things, the wrong logo put on, and the person was insistent in the email that it was this logo. But those are the things where, again, like you make the mistake once, but you never do it twice. And like
Right.
eating shit is probably the best thing for your gut. It's like the best, the
Yeah.
worst tasting, but the best remedy. And that's a ton of what surfboards is just eating
That's the only way I
financial
learned,
shit.
man.
Yeah,
Is by
but
fucking up and then
that's
just
it.
yeah,
That's it. So I had never had a mentor. I never had people that said, "Hey, don't do it this way. Do it this way. This
Mm-hmm.
is how it's supposed to look." Some guys did. Some people were good to me, but for the most part, it was just a ton of trial and error. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm close enough. I'm local enough. I'm kind enough of a person that people excused things and
Sure.
said, "Hey, you know what? Let's do another one." Or, "Hey, it's cool." Like whatever. And you have to do right. And if you do right, people will give you another chance. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to ask for another chance too.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother thing I learned, is that surfboards it's about comfort, and it's about pulling your pants down in some ways to say, like, this is what I got, like
Mm-hmm.
you were saying before,
Yeah.
what I have to do to say, hey, here's what I have available, here's how I can service you.
Yeah.
But on the same end, the customer has to do that too. And my job is to make them feel like, oh, they can. And I've been in the business of like comebacks. Like the last 2 years, 3 years, I've had like older guys, like 60-year-old, 50-year-old guys, like post back surgery guys who are like really getting back into surfing. And those are the guys that turned me on to it. And for them to ride my boards now and to be more turned on by surfing now than they were in 1995, 96
It's a beautiful thing.
it's
That's
the best
exactly
thing, the
yeah.
best thing I've ever done. There's a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah.
team riders I have, couple like accolades, but the fact that the guys that I would be like wide-eyed, goo-goo-eyed by back in the day, and are now, had a bunch of kids, gained a bunch of weight, dealt with issues in life. Life wasn't good, life wasn't easy. And for them to be riding my boards, back in love with surfing, less weight, maybe sober,
Yeah.
it's a fucking incredible thing, dude.
For
It's
sure,
maybe
man. That's what it
you
does.
know,
The ocean does incredible things for
yeah,
people.
it does. It
you
does.
know,
Yep.
and that's
Saves
why
a bunch of people.
it saves a bunch of people, man.
Yep.
And that's why it's like so hard to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like
Yep.
once you get, it's once it becomes like I guess part of you. It's,
Yeah.
it's something that you'll.
Yeah.
Like that. I had told you. Somebody asked me about like, oh, would you ever move like, to like the middle of the country the other day, and I was just like, no.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah, I've never
Even
done
if
it.
I was
I
living
wouldn't
there
be
now-
able to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've been around the world, and it's gorgeous world. There's great parts of it, but I can never not come back to Jersey. To use a double negative, it's just like you can't not. You have to, and I don't know why that is. It's family,
Hmm.
obviously, but I think it also is that the metropolitan area is just a real great energy source, and I
Right.
think energy is a big part of life, attraction, lure.
Yeah.
Like what we build in our mind, what we build in ourselves,
Well,
and
there's so much available here. Like we had
yes,
said before, that it's so very competitive,
totally,
and it's so driving,
yeah, yeah,
and which is an inspiration. I think
yeah.
you
No,
know
it
what I
totally
mean.
is. Yeah,
Like if you're you know feeling a certain way about about what you're doing, and then you just kind of flip on Instagram, you see somebody that's doing something like
yeah,
in the city or
yeah.
in and around this area. You
Yeah, or
know what I
Philly
mean?
even, or
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
There's, I don't know. It's New York is the greatest city in the world,
for
period.
sure.
And for that to be 40 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes
Hmm.
is pathetic if people aren't going.
Yeah.
And if you're not experiencing that, going there, I know it's been hard in the last 2 years here, but it still is available, and you could
Yeah.
still drive in, and it's not
Yep.
that hard to drive in. And I know it
No.
can be cost prohibitive, but listen, that place is an incredible source.
Yeah. It's an experience
It
for sure.
is. It
And there's so
is.
much happening there
Yeah,
all the
Brooklyn. I
time.
mean, it's
Yep.
I'm preaching to the choir, but still, it's just it's a great place to live. There's skiing close enough. The surf is great.
Yep.
The fishing's epic. It's
Hmm.
it's cold. It's hot, but like I don't know, man. How many sedentary people I know move to California, Florida, and they either die or they just become lost or they
Hmm.
come back here.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
You
I
can't
don't
beat
know.
September and October here, man.
No, no way. Yeah, and like spring even, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I think there's like
Yeah.
a maturation that comes with like understanding like seasons and like coming to grips with seasons and not be the brat that's like I only like summer,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
well, fuck, like
Dude,
that's
the
not life,
winter storms are sick, man.
Yeah, of
I
course
like.
they are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
the birth of spring is like a it's just like an essence, you're like, oh yes, I've done it, it's like finishing a hard workout,
Totally.
you're
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You get to like that first 70-degree day, and
It's
you're
oh
like,
my god. The first
nice.
night when that smells like grass, that's the night where you're like,
Yes.
yes, I did it. This is
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Life is good.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk about fear and the feeling of like of being like a fraud, right? So we've talked consistently about this being like your art, and you're like kind of revealing yourself to your customers, right? And these boards are not just something that you just pump out, you're giving yourself to these people with your boards, and then like it's like trying to put together a small business, and I'm talking to people, I'm like, dude, they're gonna find out who the
Totally.
fuck I
Yeah.
really am.
Totally. Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
just gonna fucking
Yep.
hang up the
Yep.
phone, or leave the meeting, or
Yep.
just like stop talking to me, and then they're just gonna be like, there is something that is just like
Yeah.
inside you, that drives you, that overpowers that,
I think
and you have to feed that.
yeah, I have a student now. She's a nurse and fresh nurse, and she's talking about basically how she feels that she is like bullshitting her way through it, right? And
Hmm.
that Jesus Christ, if I mess up at any one moment here, someone can die, and my life is on the line, right?
Yeah.
And I said, nobody ever starts their career thinking, I'm the guy, I'm the girl, I'm in charge, this is it, I'm the best.
Yeah.
And like when I first started teaching, I was like panicked, like so full bottles sweat, just like crushed by just anxiety and fear and nerves. And I was a week ahead of them. And every week I'm like, they're gonna know this, I'm dead.
Hmm.
And then just like each semester, I would just fake it a hair more and a hair more. And I think that like when you put yourself through it, it's disgusting and it's horrible and it's angst driven and you feel like
Oh god.
just a pig and you're like, I
So
could not be any worse of a human, no matter what.
so awkward.
It's just the worst. Just God, just
Sweaty.
coming home crying to my wife about
Yeah.
this committee or this student or this issue or this customer or this shape or
Yeah.
this guy that roasted me to this group of guys and um
Oh,
and
yeah.
that you just
Know the
take
feeling.
and you just think of that the next week, the next year, the next semester, the next board,
Hmm.
and that really is what it comes down to. And like
Yeah.
I think like if you're hiding from stuff in other parts of your life, you're gonna hide from your passions. You're gonna hide from your hobbies. You're gonna
Yeah.
hide from your love, right? Whether it's your wife, your dog, or your 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 great idea in the sky. And I've realized that a holistic or like a whole inclusive approach to like what your life is lets you get to like all those different parts. So if you want to run from your wellness, you're going to run from your job, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to run from your responsibilities, you're going to run from that passion that you have and so on. So I think a lot of it comes down to just like really committing to like all parts of your life. And I know that's like
Yeah.
huge, tall order, but like, you should be aware of what you're eating. You should be aware of if you're being physical. You should be aware of what you're ingesting and how much of it,
Yeah.
and that makes the hurt and pain of like rejection or having shit talked about you
Yeah.
that much more palatable and that much more, I don't want to say enjoyable, but it kind of is. Like, it doesn't, after a certain amount of time, Darren, it doesn't feel good to be told this sport's fantastic, this sport's amazing, this sport's sick.
Yeah.
Like, for a while it is,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say it doesn't feel good, because it does.
Yeah.
And sometimes the boards are fucking good, and sometimes they deserve to be said, hey, this thing is insane, thank you.
Yeah.
But I get a lot more out of like, can we do this next time, or can it be this way, or hey,
Yeah.
we forgot to do this again. And like, getting the S cloth for Evan's board, like Evan will get his S cloth from now on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's it, and that's just how it goes, man. And like the whole like, is my board done yet, is it's expected. And I think nowadays we're in a consumer mindset of, I don't want to say Target and Walmart, but it is. It's like, I paid Amazon, give it to me, right?
Yep.
Surfboards, a lot goes into it. And I
Mhm.
know that's like, yeah, but a ton does. Whether it's remembering those things, whether it's identifying all those things, whether it's committing through and dealing with all the problems I had that week, and like fixing the fan, getting the heat right, getting the resin on order that's been back ordered from China, getting the right cloth that allows that one function to happen, even though it costed me $1,800 to get that one
Yeah.
roll, because otherwise it would be a waste of money.
Right.
So there's just so much hard, bizarre nuance to
Yeah.
making items by hand, um, that I guess, to just tie a bow on that, like I think it just is that process, and like the workload allows you to get through a lot of the difficulty, and
Yeah.
that's what I rely on, I guess, is like,
Like you can kind of just like get into the thought of like, well, there's so much that goes into this, and like I
yeah.
hear what you're saying, but you don't understand, and like I'm listening to you, but like you don't understand
No,
really what's
it's each step leads you to finish the next one, and I think if I'm worried about like reception or whatever, I'm never going to get to the last one. And
right.
that also goes back to the perfectionist idea too. Is like, yeah, I do have a perfectionist element in certain parts of my life, but in other ways, the board has to get in the water. And
Yeah.
I have tons of guys, my competitors, that are far more type A than I, far more method based or process based,
Mhm.
but their boards aren't in the water. And that's the hard truth of it, is that like, yeah, they got to be nice. And yes, the palate has to be sweet, but the bigger thing is that it has to get surfed. And if they're getting surfed, they're getting ridden. And if they're
Mhm.
getting ridden, I get feedback on what really
You're
is
learning.
happening.
Yeah.
It's not just this
Yeah.
like hand job bullshit of like, thank you for the $1,800 board. Like, I really love it and how it looks in my garage apartment, or where
Yeah.
it looks in my
Yeah.
Asbury loft. And like,
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a whole cohort of people who I love. They're nice people to party with or have a barbecue with, but
Mhm.
they're not surfing with me on, what's today, February
18th.
18th.
Yeah.
They weren't surfing with me on February 18th, Darren,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's it. Is like, I make boards for people that want to surf. They know that, and
Mhm.
that has permeated, I think, enough groups, enough kind of core cohorts, that I'm making enough boards that I'm very happy.
Good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that is something that you've built over time that keeps you moving.
Yeah, because I think it's the right
Because
people.
if you got hung up on those little,
No,
you
it's
know
over.
what I mean?
It's over.
Yeah, it's
And I've
gotta be
hired
over.
that guy. I've hired that guy like 3 or 4 times now, who's like, it's just not perfect. I'm like, hey, listen, this board has to go.
Yeah.
This board has to get in someone's hand,
Mm-hmm.
and whether they don't like that speck of black underneath that one section or not, it cannot be held up because of that.
Yeah.
And and that is, I think, a really fine line to walk, because if there's too many specks of black, no good,
Yeah.
right? But there's also this idea of paralysis by analysis,
Right.
and
Yeah, we were
and
just talking about
dude,
that.
that's wrought in surfing, in
Yeah.
surfboards. It's
Mm-hmm.
this like over design and overbuild, and if I had this shop, I would do it this way, and it's like,
Yeah.
dumbass. If you had that kind of mindset in this and put in potentially my situation,
Mm-hmm.
you probably wouldn't be in that position, because
Yeah.
you wouldn't have done,
You would have never done
never
anything.
gotten to that point.
Yeah.
So and that's honestly, I was talking to my buddy today about this, is that like that is maybe one of my biggest frustrations, is that people will see a certain avenue or a certain life, and this is like a new like popular like hobby of people's, like, how do they get to do what they do, right? And it's like, well, because I'm not doing most likely what other people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like those hard decisions that I've had to make, whether it's fucking eating a ton of shit, or whether it's grinding these hard 17-hour days, or what the fuck ever it took,
Yeah.
because that's what it took. Those are those things I think separate people sometimes, and some people don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
And that's
And
it.
like, I mean, like, even like doing this, like me starting out to do this, it was like, I had a conversation with somebody. They're like, you started your own company, and I always wanted to do like some sort of like entertainment thing, but I didn't know that I wanted to do this. So, but like doing like interviewing people, getting like posting it, like, like I knew people were gonna make fun of me. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
of course,
Like,
of course.
I fucking knew.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
the closest.
Who do you
people-
think you are, Darren?
they just like
totally.
anybody. They just love to make
Totally.
fun of you. You know
course,
what I mean?
yeah,
And then if
yeah.
you're super sensitive, and you like take that to heart, like it'll keep me from doing everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Two buddies asked me to go play paddle tennis tonight, and I said, I can't. I'm doing a podcast. And they go, ooh, big shot. Wow.
Yeah.
What podcast?
Exactly.
Ooh.
Nobody.
Like
you know
Darren
what I mean?
Riley's long shot. Cool, man. Have fun, bro.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
someday you'll hang out with us, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Appreciate that. Right.
Right,
So
totally.
that's and that's, I think, the Born Under Punches jersey style of like, fake it till you make it. And I believe in that, honestly. I think that's how Bruce Springsteen, that's how Bon Jovi, that's how all these kind of,
That's how
I
everybody
hate
does
to say it,
everything.
but yeah, it is. It is.
You know?
It is. Yeah. And I honestly think that if anyone really is worrying about taking that leap, it comes down to blind faith. And that is really what it comes down to, is you are the only fucking person that can believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You can have a great wife, you can have a great husband, you can have a great dog, but they may not even be believing in you. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Dude.
And you're the only person
So
that can do that. And hopefully you do have those people. And I've been honestly blessed with blindly loving people, whether it's my parents or my wife or even my kids, but the whole idea is like, you are really your best advocate. You're your
Yeah.
only advocate.
Yeah.
And you
Because-
cannot worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
Even that's
because
very hard
like
to do.
sometimes like when you tell somebody like what you're doing, and even the slightest like tone in their voice, like I could hear.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Of course. Yeah.
you can hear it, and you're just like,
I know.
oh wow,
Okay.
they think I'm a fucking joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because like you said, it's like they don't live my life. They don't live inside, inside my head. They don't have the same, drive that I want my entire life. You know what I mean? Like these are things you do what you do because it doesn't leave you alone. Like this isn't just like, oh well, I have a hobby. You know what I mean? Like this is a warehouse full of like your dream.
Yeah. It is.
You know what I
It
mean?
is,
Like,
yeah.
and I think that people often will just, stop living in it, or stop thinking about it, or stop believing in themselves because it's just so much easier not to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's easier to just like, all right, well, I've got insurance. I can make this amount of money at this job, and I could pump out 2.5 kids, and I could live a pretty fucking happy life,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, man.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I
it's
know a
like,
bunch of them.
and
I
it's
know a
like,
bunch of
and
those
that's
guys. Yeah.
totally cool, man.
Yep.
That is.
It is.
But
It's a
those are
great
the
thing.
people that are going to laugh at you, and you
Yes.
have to be like, okay, well,
Exactly. Exactly.
we're just different. I love you, and I think
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but like, we're just different. You know.
Completely different.
You know.
Completely different. Completely. And I think that's okay, but they're completely different. And I pray for them sometimes, honestly, that they figure that out, or that maybe they find their passion, or maybe they like actually act on some of those things. But Darren, it's not just that part of their life that's not being fulfilled. It's all, again, back to that point of like,
Yeah.
it's all these other parts that are loose and scattered or whatever that don't let them focus. And I did that. I've been that. Granted, I was very young. I was that, you know,
Yeah.
but I learned very fucking quickly that like if you kook this part of your life, other parts are gonna start splitting and fracturing
Bro,
too, right?
it's like that wall that, like in the
Yep.
cartoon, like where the water's coming out. And you
Yeah,
start,
yeah.
boom,
You
and then all-
zing!
yep,
Yeah,
and then they
yeah.
all
No,
come
it
out.
is,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it is an absolute kind of brutality. But the irony of that is that like the more you do the quote work of managing like your finance or your wellness or your s- your psychiatric health, you know, all of that stuff really comes into play uh when you look at like the grand sum of it and like what the year looked like and how
Yeah.
it looks like, and they lead to more dividend, or they lead to more like I guess momentum. And I guess that's it. Is like as hard as it is,
Yeah.
as hard as each day can be, the more good you do, the more right you do, so to speak, the more work you do sometimes, it leads to quote more work, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with work, honestly. I kind
Yeah,
of
me-
live in it, and for me personally, it's something that I kind of need, you know? So
Yeah. So that gratitude that you receive here, like, well, you know, like gratitude like creates joy. So
yeah, it
that
does.
joy spreads into all other areas of your life,
Exactly.
which makes
Yeah.
you so much more productive and so
Yeah.
much more like present.
Yeah.
And because like when I'm not there,
Yeah.
I'm like fucking focusing on dumb ass
Totally.
shit.
Cynical,
You know,
negative.
cynical.
This is
Yes,
bad. This
yes.
guy
Picking
fucked me.
apart
This
stupid,
totally.
stupid things.
Yeah, man.
Like having
Yep.
fights with, you know,
Yeah.
people in my mind that I haven't seen in years.
Totally.
You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like
yeah.
just crazy shit.
No,
you
it's
know?
not, because it's, you know, it's unresolved for whatever reason. But truth of it, if you did a bunch of push-ups and did a run, you'd probably be fine by it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like when my dad used to yell at me, "Just do some push-ups. Shut up." You know. All right. Then all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm breathing, panting. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for bed. You know.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Now, do you like, aside from in your classroom, like teaching English and
Mhm.
like what you need to do, they're young people. I mean, do you know
Yeah.
talk about a message of like how important it is to, pursue a passion and to live like a healthy.
The class I teach is a gateway writing class, or it's a gateway college course. So it's like
Mhm.
a 101. It's like your first semester, you take this class. And so I'm the arbiter of like, hey, this is what the college standard is. Like, you have to make this, you have to hit this. And then in that process, some of them are like, got you, don't worry, get out of my way. And they do it. And I'm like, all right, you're ready, go. And then some are like, I can't do this. This is horrible. You're killing me. You know, you're
Yeah.
after me.
Yeah,
And so
right.
so I have to say, like, hey, like, no one's after you.
Mhm.
This is what work is. This is what life is most likely going to be to some degree.
Right.
And so, like, why are you having a hard time? And so, you know, my job was like a third counselor, a third IT guy, a third teacher back in the day, and now
Mhm.
it's half counselor, half teacher. Like the IT, they all know what to do. They're like, they teach me IT
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
Now it's just like everyone's got anxiety, everyone's got depression, everyone's rocked, and it's like, how are we gonna get through it? So yeah, a ton of my job is like navigating people and what's up in their life, you know, what's in
Yeah.
their way. And
Yeah.
some of it I know, some of it I don't, but like being a human being, being empathetic, being aware that not everyone's got it easy.
Yeah.
Those are parts of life that I think some of us know, some of us forget. So yeah, sometimes when they're saying to me like, I don't know why I don't feel well, I'm like, well, fuck, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, oh, I'm eating McDonald's, lunch, breakfast, dinner, sleeping in my car. I don't know what stretching is.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not breathing. I feel like shit.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
Yeah.
just it can be overwhelming, especially when
It,
you're young and
yeah, and I don't mean to trivialize that too. It's also my dad's a junkie. My mom whoops on him.
yeah,
It's a million other larger multi-factor elements that are brutalizing. And
yeah,
that affects education. If you're not eating, you're not studying. If you don't have a laptop or there's 10 kids in the house and there's no bandwidth, you're not on live or you're
yeah,
not there.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's just
It's heavy.
it is. Students nowadays, everyone says, "How are their writing? How is their writing?" Writing is insane, insane.
Mm,
Kids are as brilliant, if not smarter, now than they ever have been,
really?
and their writing is just as good. Sometimes they don't want to write it out because they're just like, "Why would I?"
Yeah.
But oh man, some of the writing is better now than it was. Just nowadays, are up against so much more. It
Hmm.
was, I feel like, 15 years ago, a simpler life. Now it's like, fuck, I got being the pressure of it being an 18-year-old on top of then having this like web verse of like life that they
Oh
have to
my God.
navigate, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I do not envy them, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is your message to anybody that wants to pursue that dream and
Yeah,
is scared to?
it has to be, as much as I say you have to be headlong, right? Like a shogun or like a warrior would. You have to be smart, and it has to be economically like done. So you have to move in like a, I don't want to say incremental stage, but you have to go in like small parts so that it's
Strategy.
sustainable and that it actually like works. Because
Hmm.
I know so many friends, and you were saying like before about noise. There's been so many startup like, I'm the new shaper guy. Move over. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like tagline 21-8, and like,
Yeah.
I got visors, I got fins, I got leashes. You
Yeah.
need a board bag. Here you go. Let's go, dude. And it's like, man, like you've shaped 2 boards, you've shaped
Right.
20 boards, you've
Right.
shaped 250 boards. So I would say, whoever you are, go slow, and be
But go.
strategic, be
Yeah.
strategic and really think like, okay, what's the year look like? What's 5 years look like? And I'm not saying I did that, but I made sure to not bite off more than I could really chew. And I think that allowed me to enjoy it. It allowed me to understand that like this can be built slowly and carefully. It doesn't have to happen like overnight. It doesn't have to be viral. And in fact, like I've got a good media presence, but by no means like a large account. I've never quote gone viral. I've never had like partnerships or anything like that. Honestly, it's just
Hmm.
like whatever I have on there is like people I surf with, people I
Right.
know,
Hmm.
people I like have burritos with,
Yeah.
and honestly, and
Yeah.
so like I think that's a big part of it too, is just keeping it really unique to you, your area, start regionally,
Hmm.
locally, and then build from there. But if you're a savage and you got the best idea in the world, fucking go for it.
Word.
Yeah.
Word. And so, is there a next level that you'd like to get to?
Yeah, that's like the question I get always. It's
Okay.
either like, will you go teach somewhere else but Brookdale, and like will you go and blow out the business and stuff? And I don't know. If I'm given an opportunity, maybe, but I think really it would be just to incrementalize like what we're doing, making sure that maybe the space evolves and it becomes a bit more sustainable.
Right.
But other than that, no, I'm in like a great sweet zone. Like
Sweet.
whether it's just like the numbers we're doing for the people we're doing them, do a little bit of repair work. Like honestly, if I go beyond where I am, I venture into that zone of like, okay, here we go. I've never taken a bank loan. I've never had to run on credit. Those are things I
That's
really
amazing. That's
pride
good.
myself
You
in.
should.
And
Yeah.
there's tons of people that have called in investors by friends and
Yeah.
animal people. Honestly, like you're in bed with wolves, and I've never had to do that. I never
Yeah.
wanted to,
Yeah. You
and I
don't
was
need
given
somebody on the
I was
sideline being like, "Where's my
given
money?"
given
Yeah.
tons of opportunity to maybe do that with certain people, but it was always like some one compromise that would come with it, and
Sure.
I always said no, and I don't know if I will continue to, but I
Right.
hope to, So I guess that's really it, is to remain the course of being a core local surf brand that
Very cool.
isn't really compromising, and it won't fucking sell out.
Right on. Cool. Who do you like? Who's your favorite person to shape for?
I have so many like good friends and like just like people that I've been shaping being with for like 15, 20 years even, which is kind of crazy to think about. But my core kind of crew, um, Pat McLaughlin is a guy that's always I've made boards for so many years. Couple other buddies too that are in that whole crew there. Um, Pat Schmidt's like my number one right now. He's on Vans. He's just incredibly
Yeah,
dynamic.
killing
He's
it.
a
Yep.
6'2" Eli Manning kind of human being that can all of a sudden do a gymnast rotation, you know. So that's what's just he's beyond. People don't even really know. I think his skill. He's so underassuming in some ways. But then Tommy Inkin, Sam Hammer, really like just all the guys that I've always wanted on my boards, honestly. And there's
Cool.
others too that I still want to get and still will get. But a bunch of young kids. That's a big part of my business is like making sure that that kind of next wave is on them. And
Yeah,
I'm constantly
that's huge,
looking
yeah.
to like younger. I think that they're a group that's underserviced, honestly, and they're overlooked in like a weird way. They're sold a bunch of shit trash clothing that falls apart in a month and a half, but
Yeah.
but we can't get them like good boards or boards that really work for our areas, or
Yeah.
like different kinds of boards. And like they have all the time in the world. They got money, you know, like let's go.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
24-year-old
Yeah.
is my number one client.
Yeah.
That's my, you know,
You guys are
they
all
got
getting bored.
cash.
Yeah.
It's either they're blowing the money on sneakers, right, or
Which is
or
incredible.
parties or nights out, or I get the surf junkie kid that's just like buying 7 boards a year, you know. And make no mistake, I take care of that kid deeply, you know.
Sure.
And they get a lot of boards very quickly for a very, very affordable price, depending on who they are, right? But that's it. I'm just trying to make boards for people that really surf, and that's my first priority is those people.
Cool.
And got tons of good clients that pay a lot of money for boards. They're great people, but sometimes they may wait a little bit longer than somebody that really is like looking to get busy, you know?
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, dude, thank you for your time.
Are you kidding me? Thanks for coming by.
This was
great.
cool, man.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to get to know you, and you got a great message. Keep doing what you're doing,
Stoked.
man.
Thanks, Darren.
Cheers,
Appreciate
man.
that. Yep.
All right.